I didn't even accept that I was handsome until I was like 27. I borderline didn't even know I was handsome. And that is despite all the signals I was getting from women throughout my entire life. See, some of you may hear what I just said and be like, oh, it's because you weren't handsome. You probably just had a glow up and whatever. Yeah, there was some glowing up for sure, but I never really struggled to have women of that whatever age group I was in at that time, right? All throughout, like, let's say middle school up until now, I never really struggled to have women notice me in that way, right? And yet, it never really sunk in that, hey, you're actually a handsome man. Like, you're not just like, to me, I always thought, maybe I'm like a little ugly, but I'm not too ugly. I'm just like a little ugly, you know? I always felt like that. I always felt like I'm just a little bit ugly, but like I'm not too bad to where like I would get utterly rejected by any woman I come across. But like I'm also really not that. Like I'm not good looking, you know? That's how I felt my entire life up until 27 years old. Mind you, up until I was like 23. 23 is when I really started lifting weights at the gym. Before then, I was just doing some martial arts and calisthenics. And yeah, I mean, I had a decent physique, but I was very skinny as well. I'm 5'7", and at that point, I was like 140 pounds. And I was 140 pounds for the longest, like all throughout high school and everything. So even though I was capable of jumping fairly high, running fairly fast, lifting a somewhat decent amount of weight for someone who didn't even really train like that in high school. Because I really started being consistent with training after high school, like after I dropped out of college, honestly, which I know is super late, but that's, I guess, a story for another time. Between the ages of 23 and 28, really between the ages of 26, but between the ages of 25 and 27, that's when I had my most massive glow up. That's when I went from like 150 pounds to 185 pounds of just like, you know? And it's not just upper body too, like I'm jacked all around, you know? I look very athletic, and I am very athletic. I lift weights and I'm a martial artist, you know? I'm not much into playing sports. Sorry, I'm not gonna throw around a ball. Well, I'll probably do some football here and there because I like running, I like catching and things like that. But I'm not gonna be balling you up in basketball. I'm not like a soccer player, you know. I fight. I like to fight. You know, I like to grapple, I like to strike, all that. So I'm an athletic man. But even when I was 185 pounds, already doing martial arts for several years, it still never registered to me, hey, you're actually you're like attractive. Like, you're not devilishly handsome, right? You're not some James Bond character, but you're attractive, bro. And I'll tell you when it hit me. And it was something so, the way it hit me was so strange. A woman actually told me. A woman that I was romantically involved with for a few weeks, honestly. That's a story again for another time. It was quite the thing. But you know, we were doing the deed and all of that, and she was very fond of me, and I was very fond of her. And she was very highly attracted to me. Maybe she was ovulating. Who knows? She was probably ovulating. We'll see. But this woman was the type of woman that was charismatic, a people's person, very attractive, very sensual in her movement. She was a dancer, right? So very sensual, just like a womanly type of woman, you know? So, and I'm telling you this so that you don't think that I just got this feedback from, like, you know, a woman who's not even attractive, right? Not to be mean, but it matters. So, I was romantically involved with her, and we were standing outside. And for some reason, she posed this question to me. She said, "You know you're attractive, right?" And inside, I was stunned. Because even though she was fond of me, and even though she wasn't the first woman fond of me, right? Again, all throughout middle school, high school, after, I never had an issue with women showing me attention that way. But it never sunk in my mind and in my body that this is because I'm attractive, you know? And I know this is probably like a very self-obsessed video. I get it. Very self-obsessed. But I'm just sharing this with you to see who it resonates with. You know what I mean? Anyway. She's like, "You know you're attractive, right?" And I played it off, right? I was playing cool. I was playing like, I was keeping it player, right? If at least for that moment. I was like, yeah, you know, I forgot what I said, but basically I played it off. I'm like, yeah, like almost like giving the impression of, yeah, of course I know I'm attractive. Like, how would I not know I'm attractive? But it was at that moment right there. I remember the exact place that it happened. It was at that moment right there where I'm like, oh, oh, oh. Like, what I really wanted to say was, I am? You think I'm attractive? Like, am I attractive? Like, okay, that's interesting. And that happened at 27 years old. It's been a journey ever since of, basically, now that I know I'm attractive, it's way easier to walk into rooms, way easier to talk to people, especially since I'm already strong and I'm already a martial artist. So it's not like I'm scared of people, and I'm not scared of talking to women. But knowing that you're attractive makes it that much easier, you know? And especially me as a musician, right? I make music. So me being on stage, knowing I'm attractive, right? Me going up to promoters and speaking with fans and people like that, knowing, hey, you're a handsome man. Like, let's not beat around the bush here. And I think there's value in knowing that, because think about it. Women know that they're attractive. If a woman is a beautiful woman, she knows that she's a beautiful. Like, it's extremely rare for you to find a woman who's beautiful and who, like, genuinely doesn't realize that she's beautiful, because she's most likely been getting feedback about her beauty, positive feedback, her whole life. Well, that was kind of like me to a much lesser extent, right? Because I don't think the level of positive feedback I get or I have gotten can ever compare to a beautiful woman, right? And I don't think it should. It's okay. But that was kind of like me, you know. I had dozens of points of evidence where I'm like, okay, well, you're clearly attractive because so-and-so likes you, so-and-so likes you, so-and-so likes you. You've never really struggled in that capacity. Like, it is what it is, you know? And I will say that living life as an attractive man who knows he's attractive is so much different than living life as a person who doesn't know they're attractive. And I'll also add to this, since I've realized I'm attractive, I also have gone deeper, because I'm a deep thinker. I'm not just gonna stay at the surface and be like, okay, cool, I'm good looking, like haha, or whatever. I don't even know how to think like that. I'm thinking, what about your character makes you attractive? Because I feel like, for the most part, because I didn't think I was attractive, I obsessed over character. To the point where, like, no, now I have a very strong, expansive character. It's just, I've only come to terms with being good looking for not that long, right? I don't even think it's been a year. I'm 28 right now. I don't even think it's been a year that I've accepted that I'm attractive. So I say all that to say that it's 3:30 a.m. by the way. We're in Miami with it. I say all that to say that there's a certain quality to someone who feels beautiful. You know? I've noticed it in women mostly, because I don't look at men like that, right? In women, I've noticed that, yes, there's women who are attractive and they're beautiful, and there's nothing they could do about it. Imagine being so beautiful, you're just like, you're gonna get positive feedback everywhere you go, and there's nothing you can do about it. You are stuck with the curse of beauty for however many years, right? And usually when women who are like genetically gifted like that, they're beautiful for the rest of their lives. You know what I mean? Like, if they take care of themselves, they're beautiful for the rest of their lives. That's it. But I noticed that even with women who, I'll say, give me a sec, who I'll say perhaps aren't, let's say, model sex symbol attractive, right? And there's a difference between sexy and beautiful, at least I feel like, but that's a topic for a whole other thing. But they're not sex symbol attractive. They're also not like, you know, just like dazzlingly beautiful, right? So they're fairly attractive, right? They're not ugly, they're fairly attractive, but you could tell that they feel beautiful. That makes them so much more attractive than a woman who like is beautiful and she's just kind of like whatever, almost taking her beauty for granted, because she never really had to work to feel beautiful. At least that's the impression I get. I have no idea what the female goes through to do that, right? But the impression I get is like, because you've always been beautiful, you never really had to do the work to develop internal beauty. With regards to women, or as opposed to women who perhaps they weren't always very attractive, they didn't always feel very attractive, and they had to like glow up within themselves to not only, you know, exercise and like start going to just exercise and eat better and like just take care of themselves, skincare, all that, whatever the women do that men should do too, right? Skincare, gym, eat right is a human thing, not just a female thing, a woman thing, I should say. But there's just a certain quality to someone who feels beautiful within themselves, where even if they're not model tier beautiful or model tier sexy, they just give you a certain feeling. That feeling of them feeling beautiful rubs off on you. You feel like, oh my God, like she really finds herself beautiful, and that is beautiful. That is beautiful. That instantly, you know, if we're using like the typical ranking system, which I don't really use, But if we're using like the 0 to 10, like that's an extra point or two on the rating scale. You know, a 6 can go to an 8, potentially, right? Potentially. Take this with a grain of salt, right? A 6 can go to a 7, maybe an 8. If she just has like a certain thing about her where she keeps herself clean, she treats herself as a beautiful woman. And so I think in that same way, men can take advantage of the exact same thing. Now, we express it differently, right? Because we're men. That's normal. I'm not saying to do it in the way that women do it. I wouldn't even know how to instruct you in that way. And I'm not necessarily instructing you as a man on how to do it, because I think we all go through our own journey, you know. But from my perspective, I think feeling powerful is the main thing for men. I can only speak for men. It's probably for women too, but for men, feeling powerful, not only physically, but emotionally, psychologically, intellectually, mentally, financially, is something that I'm still working on now. Not that I don't, I mean, I'm stable financially, but I can't say I'm like super abundant financially. And that's something that I'm focusing on. Like now, I'm in that era of advancing financially, because I'm sick of feeling deficient in that way, right? Even if I was making 100K or $250,000 a year, I would still feel like somewhat deficient, especially living in Miami, where, like, for people who don't know, I doubt you don't know, but just in case you don't, Miami is known for flashy lifestyle. You know, exotic cars, mansions, by the beach, parties all the time, gorgeous women. Like, we're talking every shape, size, every skin color, every hair texture, every nationality. You go to nearly every place and you see one or two that will have you like, wow, the cashier may have you like, wow, she is, Baddies are everywhere. They're annoyingly abundant, right? They're not an endangered species here. There's so many of them in this city. So I forgot why I went off on a tangent. You see, baddies are inspiring. Baddies are inspiring. Women are inspiring in general. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of value that comes from feeling powerful and feeling beautiful. You know, even as a man. I know that I don't think men usually use beautiful to refer to themselves, but trust me, women use it. If you're a beautiful man, the woman will say he's a beautiful man. You know, I've heard it time and time again. So don't shy away from that, right? You don't need to publicly exclaim it, but don't shy away from that, you know? So, yeah. Let's see who this resonates with. You can tap in the comments and let me know.